Hey guys.
Happy Sunday. So this has been a very full week. Let me see if we can rewind and catch you up on everything. So this morning we sat down to a peaceful breakfast and then we heard a beep, which at the time I thought was just our dehumidifier letting us know that it needed to be emptied.
Yeah, no big deal, right?
Yeah. Well, I came back through a little while later to find Mr. Huff defrosting the compressor in one of our freezers.
Yep.
Not good. Now, we had just put 14 jars of homemade chicken broth in that freezer the day before, which had pretty much taken it up to its capacity. And I was feeling really good about that because when you're frugal and you cook a lot of things from scratch, moving means that you have to catch up on making all of those things that you rely on, all those homemade things in your pantry and in your freezers. And I was really feeling like this week we had finally gotten there. Like I can only think of, I think I still need to do some jars of beans for the freezer. Other than that, we are really back to like having everything that I like to have on hand to cook inexpensive, easy meals.
Yep.
So having a freezer go out like that potentially is terrifying, especially when you're sitting there thinking, well, where is this going to go if this freezer has failed? Because the other freezer is full.
Yeah, they're both maxed out to the max. I mean, beyond max.
Yeah, and being in France, we have a small refrigerator, which we actually really enjoy, but it's not exactly like it's ready to absorb all of that stuff if things need to come out of that freezer. And of course, guys, this is Sunday. This is going out on Sunday, and you are not going to go buy a freezer in France on a Sunday.
Nope.
The stores are closed, and I feel like even if it were a weekday, you would be probably waiting several days or a week or longer to have something delivered. Yeah. So this is not a quick fix situation. But luckily, he did get the compressor running again. He caught it before anything had like thawed and gotten to be.
Yeah, it's not actually the compressor. It's just the coils were frozen over. So
okay.
I just thawed those.
So anyway, cross your fingers for us because I think we're on track with this freezer. But now I've got that in the back of my mind. So we'll see. Now, backing up a bit more, Friday afternoon, I was in the kitchen working. Hayes outside doing some yard work. He comes back in and says,
oh, yep.
The electric company is here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What round is this?
Oh my, I don't even know anymore. So if you're not aware of this story, France, or at least our area, I'm not sure which, has decided to put all of the power lines underground. This is great because for storms and stuff, we're going to have less outages. Now, this has been a many rounds process with surveyors, people coming to sign off on the survey work, us having to sign the contract, them digging up our orchard to put the power lines underground. We'll see. There was another time where we discovered they had dug across our driveway, thereby locking us in so that we were stuck at home until they were done.
They had to bring the lines up the farm road. So
yeah. So this should be, we think, the last round, them coming to hook up the new underground lines and then taking away all of the power poles, which are on the neighbor's property, thankfully not ours. So that part, I think, is less of a big deal for us. Mm-hmm. But anyway, someone from the electric company was here, spent some time digging around in the power box, not sure what he was doing. But now I'm thinking, does that mean they're coming Monday? So I don't know. It just has a way of completely derailing our week, and we never know when it's coming. So part of me is like really eager to get this done just because I want to check the utility stuff off the list for good. But part of me is just imagining that they're going to come at the like worst moment possible, cut our power when I'm in the middle of some project where I need it. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll keep you posted. We'll let you know when they come again and what new adventures we find ourselves in. Now, on a positive note, last week we showed you tree number 55 had fallen down on the property. I'm happy to say that tree number 55 has now joined all of his friends in the ever-growing pile of limbs and logs.
Yep.
So part of me thinks that's progress because we can mow and it's not in the way. But again, anytime that pile of limbs and logs gets bigger, I just am like, oh. Yeah. I think we really need a shredder at this point. I think we probably could have our own mulching company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it makes sense for us to rent a shredder because I think it's just too much to get through.
Yeah.
I think the cheapest, most frugal thing to do would be to actually buy one at some point.
Yeah, it's not a weekend rental project.
No.
It's going to take weeks.
And I would be terrified that we would mess somebody else's up. So anyway, I showed you last week we're working on also using some of that in our fire pit to kind of like chill in the evenings and sit there and maybe do some campfire cooking and just burn through some of it as well. So we'll get to the end of it at some point. I'm curious to see if we can make a big dent before the end of the winter. I don't know. But other than all of that, we mostly spent our time this week in the kitchen, really, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So making the chicken broth, as we mentioned. But also, we took advantage of several deals at the grocery store this week, getting things processed and turned into ingredients and foods and things that we can use to save money on our grocery bill going forward. So I thought that was a good opportunity to take you guys along and show you how we do some of those things. Because I think really just a little bit of creativity in the kitchen can save you hugely on your grocery bill. And I know everybody is feeling the pinch at the grocery store these days. So we'll show you that. And then there's a recipe that I have been making for years. And I don't know why I had never shared it before. So I got that written up this week and did a video to show you how that's made. And that recipe is my slow cooker corn chowder. So this is a really simple recipe and really, I think, uses things that you probably already have on hand in your pantry or in your freezer. So we'll take you along for that as well. And I think that's a lot. I think that's probably everything this week.
I think that covers it.
So let's dive in and show you what we've been up to. Okay, so we just got back from the grocery store and they had 2 reduced price produce boxes this week. Now, I haven't seen these in a while, so I was excited to grab one. And it's always hard to tell what's inside of them, but I kind of tried to pick the box that I thought looked like it maybe had the most variety. So we'll see what we've got. What I'm hoping this time is for some fruit to add to our fruit bowl. And believe it or not, I'm hoping for some radishes because we're almost out of our tasty radish pickles. I would love to be able to do a batch of those. All right, so let's see what we got this time. Now, just to remind you, these boxes always seem to be €3. So more often than not, I feel like we get way more than our money's worth. So we'll see. Now these boxes, I will say, they're a great value. They do have a habit of changing my trajectory for the week because I'll have a plan of what I think I'm going to do. And then this box will really inform what I'm going to be doing for the next bit so we can use everything up. But that's okay. I think a part of being frugal is being flexible. So when you see a good deal, you kind of have to make room in your schedule to take advantage of it. Oh, so right off the bat, I'm thinking this looks like a really good box. All right, so let's dig into this. So it looks like we've got some nectarines, which I'm very excited about. I think those will go on our oatmeal. I love peaches and nectarines. All right, and then looks like we have a decent number of tomatoes. They seem to be in good condition. I will probably, if we don't use them in a recipe this week, I'll probably just pop them whole in the freezer so that we can make sauce or something later. And apples, guys, I don't know if we need more apples right now, but that's okay. We'll put them to use. Here's another, looks like probably like a Brandywine tomato. Here's a nice big apple. All right, so we've got some citrus. That's exciting in my land. I don't think we've had that in a box before. This really is a good variety. All right, here's something else I don't think we've had in a box before. We've got 2 cantaloupes. So the ones here in France that we've come across so far are more this size, which is actually nice because they're quicker to chop up and prep, but really like 1 melon is a meal, so you don't have it taking up space in the fridge or going bad. Okay, what else do we have? There's another apple. Okay, there's a worse for wear, looks like a white peach. So that one will probably get composted. It's pretty bruisey. Some more tomatoes. There's an apple. Let's see. More fruit. Tomato. More citrus. Okay, here's a pear. He does have some bruises, so I don't think he'll be a keeper. Potatoes are good because we're going to actually do a recipe this week that calls for potatoes, so we'll get those used up right away. We've got some cherry tomatoes. Those look to be in good shape. And I don't think we've ever had a box that didn't include mushrooms. They are a big deal in France. So we've got a package, sealed package of mushrooms. We also have some loose mushrooms. I'll probably end up using those in broth because I'm getting ready to do some chicken broth soon. And they add a lot of flavor to broth. So I've got plenty frozen in the freezer right now, so I think that'll be the best use. All right, so here's some more little baby potatoes. Couple bananas. We'll turn those into banana muffins or banana bread. Eggplant. Here's another eggplant friend. Okay, got a big cucumber. Mushrooms. Okay, we got a very dented onion. I don't know about him. Here's I said cucumber. I guess those are probably zucchini, both of those. So there we have that. And then something else we have never had in a box, something that I really enjoy, is fresh green beans. I think they're so much better than canned. So I will probably snap these and get them in the freezer, and then we'll use them for green bean casserole at Thanksgiving. So I have a good recipe for that. So I would say this is probably the best box we've ever had. Would you say, Mr. Huff? I mean, this is...
I think that's the most variety.
Yeah, definitely the most variety. And like, I'm excited because I can see a good use for everything in here. So, all right, well, we'll start getting those processed. But I think for €3, we really made out this week. All right, so I'm going to get in the kitchen now and start processing all of the stuff that we just got in our reduced price at the grocery store. So we're already in the process of trying to use up the things that we're getting free or cheap. So I've got a batch of apple butter cooking in the background here that came off of our tree. And now I think we're going to start by processing all of the limes that are in the box. So I'm just going to turn these into juice, and I've got my juicer out, and we're going to find out if this works. This is my €5 clearance juicer from Aldi that I got last year. So taking him on his maiden voyage. Seems to be doing a good job. It's not leaving a lot of waste, so we'll call that a win. All right, so we'll get the rest of these chopped. Okay, so let's get that in a measuring cup and see how much we got. Looks like a pretty decent amount of juice. All right, so it looks like we got about a cup of lime juice, so that's great. We'll get that measured up in a container and get that in the freezer. Okay, now let's move on to the green beans. So originally I was thinking that I would freeze these so that we would have them to make green bean casserole at Thanksgiving. But then I remembered there's a soup recipe that I have been meaning to share with you guys now for about 2.5 years. So I think this is the perfect excuse to get that done. So I'm going to go ahead and snap all of these green beans, and then we'll chop them into smaller pieces for the recipe, and we'll maybe do that one together next week. There's probably €3 worth of green beans in that bowl, so I would say we did pretty well in our box. Now this is something, when the kids were little, this was one of their jobs. We had friends that ran a CSA, and we were a pickup spot for them, which was a pretty great deal because we got a free share every week, and then we also got to keep anything that didn't get picked up. And it was amazing how much stuff did not get picked up every week. So we would end up with bushels and bushels of all sorts of produce, which we then had to figure out how to fit in the fridge and then process that week. So the kids got very good at snapping green beans. We, as a family, we absolutely loved doing the CSA drop spot because we ended up with one of our shareholders who did a bread run for the grocery stores, and she would go around and collect all of the day old stuff when she was swapping out for the week and bring it all to the house. And we ended up with so much bread. So it was amazing. Between all the free fruits and veggies and the bread, we really had a good thing going for a while there. So we did that for several years. And that's probably a big part of why our kids aren't the least bit picky when it comes to food. Did you guys have to snap green beans as a kid? I feel like that was a standard kid chore back in the day. Maybe less so nowadays. Maybe we'll get Mr. Huff involved in a minute and let him process the melon. And you know, I realized after we showed you guys the box, believe it or not, we didn't end up with any radishes this time. Usually we end up with so many, I had to come up with good ways to use them. And this time I was hoping for them, and I think that's the first time we didn't get them. Okay, so I have a chocolate zucchini bread recipe that calls for 2 cups of shredded zucchini, and that's the equivalent of about 2 medium zucchini, which is what we ended up with in our box today. So we still have a lot of apple bread in the fridge to work through, so we really don't need more bread right now. But what I'm going to do is get these chopped up and then shredded, and we will freeze these so that later down the road, when we need an easy breakfast or dessert, either way, we can just pop these out and quickly make a batch. So I'm just gonna cut the ends off of these and then sort of cut these into rough wedges because I want to make sure they're gonna fit the chute for my food processor. And I'm going to cut those in half in the center too, so they're a little easier to manage. I think those are good. All right, so we're gonna get this turned on and then send them down their chute. So that's a quick project. I'll show you what we ended up with. There's our 2 cups of shredded zooks that we need for our recipe. So whenever I'm freezing a fruit or vegetable puree or shreds like that for the purpose of using it on my bread, I like to put them in a freezer bag and write on the outside exactly how many cups it is and what it is for. So let me grab a bag for that. Okay, so I also keep permanent markers in the kitchen so I can always quickly do this. All right, so this we're going to say is 2 cups shredded zucchini. And the reason I do this, even if I were processing a ton of zucchini today, I would still take the time to divide it into 2 cup bags, because then I know if I want to make this recipe, I just go grab 1 bag. I don't have any measuring. I don't have to thaw out a huge amount to get the small amount that I need. It's just there and ready to go. All right. And I can certainly link to this recipe if you're still working through end of season zucchini. That chocolate zucchini bread is super easy. I like to do it in the bread machine, which makes it even more hands off. All right, just about got it. So if you're in the process of dividing up these like 2 cup amounts for making breads or cakes like I do, it should fit really well in like a quart freezer bag. So you don't have to use a big gallon bag for this. So we've got that like that. We'll let it freeze flat so that it stacks better in our freezer. But again, easy thing to do now to make our meals even easier later. All right, guys, I haven't shown you how big celery is here yet. Check this guy out. Huge, absolutely huge. It's got to be double the height of an American celery. Now, I will say I have never bothered to do much beyond making broth with the leaves before, but with as much celery leaf as I have here, I've actually gotten in the habit of drying them and using them as celery flakes. So when in France, come up with new ways to use what you got. All right, so while we were in the kitchen, we also decided to make a couple batches of chicken broth in the slow cooker. Now, I actually own 3 slow cookers, and that's because, especially this time of year when there's all sorts of garden produce and things coming in, it's really handy to be able to pull out multiple slow cookers and to have different things going all at once. Now, if this is a recipe that you're interested in, if you've never made chicken broth yourself before, I will include a link in the description below the video this week to my step-by-step tutorial. It's really easy, especially if you do it in the slow cooker. All right, so I was in the kitchen working on a batch of my slow cooker corn chowder, and I thought I would pause where I'm at so that I can show you how I make this one, because this is such a great recipe for fall and winter months, and it's something that our family has been making for many years. Okay, so let me catch you up on where I'm at with this recipe. So far I have added corn, chopped potatoes with the skin still on them for all the vitamins, and 1 chopped medium onion. All right, so I've got that in the crock pot for our slow cooker. And then to that, we're gonna add some cooked chopped bacon. So we're gonna add that for some flavor. Now, if you're wanting to make this as a vegetarian dish or even a vegan dish, you could certainly skip this. So that's what I would do if my oldest daughter were at home. Okay, and then we're gonna add our spices. So we're gonna add some salt, some pepper, and a bit of minced garlic. Okay, and then we're gonna finish with some broth. Now, normally when I'm making this, I do it with chicken broth. Today, I'm gonna be using veggie broth because that's what I actually had thawed at the moment. And as usual, all of the quantities and things will be in the recipe that you can access on the website and print out if you'd like. Okay, so there's the broth. And now we're just gonna cover this and then cook it on low for 8 hours or high for 4. We'll get that set. Now there are a couple more ingredients that we're gonna add after it's had time to cook. So we'll come back in about 4 hours and I'll show you how to finish putting this together. All right, so our corn chowder has had time to cook. Take a look. And now I'm just gonna show you how to finish this up. This is really, really easy. So the first thing we're gonna do is use an immersion blender. And if you don't have one of these, you can certainly just transfer this over to a regular blender. And I'm not wanting this to be smooth. I wanna have some texture to it. So I'm gonna kind of puree it a bit, but I want it to have, like I said, some texture left. So let's get that started. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. So you can see we still have quite a bit of texture, but we have broken up the corn and the potatoes a bit. Okay, and now we just have 2 ingredients to add to this that's gonna finish this off. So I have some milk. And then I have a bit of butter as well. So get that in there. And there's no need to melt that ahead of time because with this being hot, it's gonna take care of itself very quickly. All right, let's get a spoon to stir that in. I'm just gonna stir that around until the butter melts into it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. We've been making this recipe for years. I think when we started making this, the kids were quite little, and of course now they're adults. So some recipes you kind of get tired of over time. This has been one that has really stuck with us. All right, we just about got that melted in. All right, so there's our corn chowder, and let me get a bowl and serve some up so you can see. I don't know where my ladle is at the moment, so we'll just use this. So this is really almost a 3-season recipe because it's great in the summer when corn's in season, but it's also just a really easy weeknight meal in the fall and winter months when you need something warm and satisfying, but something that's going to come together quickly since you've got a lot going on. Take a look at that. That is a very simple and tasty dinner. So as usual, I will include a link to the recipe in the description below the video.